Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for today's webinar. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. My name's Nell Thompson and I'm the Secretary of the Australian Institute of Animal Management, and I'll be hosting the webinar for you today. The Australian Institute of Animal Management is the national peak body representing local government animal management officers. And I've been lucky enough to be on the committee since 2013. And I'm also the coordinator of the National Getting to Zero program. The AIM committee consists of a wide range of professionals engaged in the various aspects of animal management. AIM seeks to support those engaged in the business of animal management and the function itself by providing training and information, opportunities for networking and collaboration, and by encouraging the use of best practice policy and practices. AIM understands the significant pressures placed on local government and not-for-profit rescue and rehoming service providers when working in the companion animal management space. We welcome new members and people can join via our website at aim.org.au. So to our agenda for today, once I hand over to our presenters, there'll be around 45 minutes of presentation and around 15 minutes of question time once the presentation's concluded. The recording of this webinar will be accessible via our website to all our members to watch at any time. We're going to ask that everyone mutes themselves during the presentation unless our presenter indicates otherwise. And if you have questions, you can start putting them in the Q&A section and we'll get through as many as we can at the end of the session. If you have more questions or we don't get to yours during the question time, you can send a message to our Facebook page and we'll get to it that way. And if you have questions relating to your understanding of the content during the presentation, pop your hand up and we'll try and get to them during the presentation. I'm happy to introduce our two presenters today. And the first is a fellow member of the AIM board, Danny Scateri. Danny's the project officer for public health and safety within the City of Charles Sturt. Danny's background is in education, having a Bachelor of Education from the University of South Australia. She currently works as a member of the Public Health and Safety team of Charles Sturt and coordinates, monitors and evaluates the Strategic Animal Management Plan, which is designed to set the direction for the management of domestic animals within our community. Furthermore, the project officer is responsible for the region health plan reporting, dog registration management, as well as developing and implementing various educational programs, including events and providing guidance to and support to the animal management officers in relation to strategies surrounding animal management within the city. Danny will be presenting today with Petra Edwards. Petra is a professional dog trainer and behaviour consultant and animal management officer in South Australia. She has a Bachelor of Science with honours with a specialisation in animal behaviour and is currently completing her PhD investigating how dog behaviour operates in the veterinary context. She is also a professional canine trainer, accredited PPAB, holds a clicker training competency and is a fear-free certified professional. Petra has extensive experience in basic manners training, puppy preschools, in-home consults and professional development seminars and workshops for the pet care industry, including veterinary professionals, daycares and local government. She's also very passionate about animal behaviour and welfare and the amazing achievements and relationships that force-free training can facilitate. She's thoroughly committed to animal welfare, keeping pets safe and in homes and in her own professional development. Petra regularly attends conferences, seminars and skills-based workshops to keep up to date with the latest in research and best practice methods. Over to you, Danny and Petra.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a little video for you all before we begin, so we hope you enjoy.
Just having a minor tech difficulty on this end, sorry. So we've all experienced it, dealt with it, or seen it, that level of frustration that dog owners feel if their expectations aren't being met, if things aren't quite going to plan. And so they have that frustration with their own dogs or with other dogs that they meet out and about. And it could be because they're barking or digging or not coming back when called. And we know that all dog owners really love their dogs, genuinely. But what do they do, or who do they turn to if their expectations aren't being met, considering that you know, a quick Google will give them 10 different solutions to a problem behaviour that are all very different, and they're all guaranteed to work, and they're all absolutely, and everyone that they talk to is an expert as well. So it's one of the things that we've kind of been thinking about in the back of our minds as we move forward.
So we wanted to see if there was a better way. So is there a way to prevent such issues? And does it start with changing the way that we engage with our community? Over the years, we've moved away from education about regulation and towards education on animal behaviour, because the two are, well, inextricably linked. And let's face it, the public don't want to hear any more about what the rules and the laws are. Today, we're excited to share with you our strategy on community engagement that we pretty well stumbled across through some quick thinking, innovation, and a little bit of luck. Okay, I'm going to see if we can. Okay.
So just to set the scene, we'd like to give you an overview of our council. So the City of Charles Sturt is located on the western side of Adelaide, between the beach and the central business district. We're one of the state's largest councils with 120,000 people and 16,000 registered dogs, who all get to enjoy a really relaxed lifestyle that's close to the beach, close to the city, and close to the airport. We're known as Adelaide's major sporting and entertainment hub, with the national basketball and soccer stadiums, 3 golf courses, the international rowing course, and the Adelaide Entertainment Centre. So since early settlement, Charles Sturt has evolved into a thriving community, and we're now a mix of residential, industrial and commercial land with contemporary and highly valued heritage areas.
So as a local council in South Australia, we are governed by the Dog and Cat Management Act. And as such, we have a responsibility to adhere to this act and also regulate its requirements within our community. So these regulatory requirements include mandatory dog registration, desexing and microchipping, as well as the overall management of dogs and cats in the council area, such as dogs wandering at large and dog attack investigations. The Act also requires each council to develop a strategic 5-year plan for the management of cats and dogs within their community. The City of Charles Sturt Strategic Animal Management Plan 21 to 25 identified an opportunity to investigate innovative and interactive methods to manage ongoing and new animal management issues within our city. So with a focus on education, prevention and encouragement prior to resorting to enforcement, we wanted to tailor strategies to reach our residents in line with our plan's objectives.
So, as with most new ideas, this one started with a problem. One of the most contentious issues that we have is our dogs on the foreshore. So in Charles Sturt, we have about 13 kilometres of coastline, and on that, dogs have to be on lead between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. during daylight savings time. So it changes in winter and then changes back again in the busy season. And I'm sure that you can appreciate the polarizing nature of that sort of community discussion around those bylaws. So especially considering that every dog owner feels like their dog personally should be exempt from those leash laws having to have their dog on lead. And, you know, honestly, some of the reasons that I've been given for that exemption are very interesting as I talk to people on the beach. So they need to be exempt because their dog is old or young, a puppy, it's learning, it's very friendly, it's really well trained, or because it's got a sparkly collar. And then also on the other side of that, we have every non-dog owner, and actually lots of dog owners, who feel that that all dogs should be on lead at all times on the beach, that all dogs on the beach need to be muzzled, that dogs should not be on the beach at all, or a personal favourite of ours, that all dog owners need to wear a high-vis vest with their dog's registration ID clearly identifiable on the back, so that the community is able to report on that person easily. So inevitably, this sort of mixed-use space and this really polarising community issue that tends to hit a peak every summer resulted in the community calling for greater enforcement of our bylaws, and that led to the creation of the Beach Education Officer role over 10 years ago.
Now, prior to 2015, our beach patrols were done primarily by the community safety officers, or our day rangers. This was done on a monthly roster basis and involved an officer driving along the foreshore, advising the public on the on-leash requirements and expedients necessary. In addition to this, we also had a dedicated beach education officer who would do foot patrols on the beach and educate the community on the leash laws and effective control requirements, as well as capture some statistical data on the number of dogs that were on and off the lead. So this role was not initially an authorised officer role or an enforcement role in any capacity, as we wanted the officer to be an approachable and friendly face of council. However, the polarising nature of the problem and the community complaints continued, and the community called for a greater enforcement presence.
So with community expectations focused on enforcement, the role evolved again, and I was lucky enough to come on the scene. So as Nell said at the start, I'm a qualified dog trainer and behaviour consultant. I'm also doing my PhD in dog behaviour and welfare, and as it happens, I have an knack with dealing with people, so who knew? And I have to say, actually, that is one of the nicest things about having my background in that sort of educational role was people would often say, well, what do you know? And I'd be like, actually, I've done a bit of study in this. I've got a bit of experience. So the benefits of having a qualified trainer completing their PhD on dog behaviour and welfare went further than just enforcement and telling people what the laws were. And that was one of the unexpected sort of side effects of me taking on this role. So almost by accident, our community messages went from this education around, these are what the laws are, this is what your requirements are as a responsible dog owner, this is what you need to do, this is what the fine is, to more education focused on behaviour and welfare and how to do the training, with those underlying regulation and compliance messages thrown in as part of the conversation, but not the whole conversation. And what we found was that people started to approach our beach patrol vehicle so much more often. We'd get to have some really awesome chats about what they're doing with their dog and how their training is going. And a lot of them weren't even aware of the regulations, even though we plaster it and send messages as far as we can, as wide as we can. So it's a wonderful way to have those conversations without the overall focus being the endpoint of regulatory compliance. Sorry.
From 2015, we changed the focus of our education content. We also introduced a beach patrol car, so we could increase the area that could be covered and the number of people that obviously we could speak to. We collected all sorts of data surrounding compliance and at different times. In the water, type of conversations that were being had, how many giveaways were being provided, rubbish that was being picked up on the beach, people in sand dunes, as well as other community-based information such as jet skis, sharks or other wildlife sightings, including most recently assisting BirdLife Australia and Green Adelaide with their statistics on protecting the critically endangered hooded plovers, which have decided to call Charles Sturt home, and are nesting shorebirds that obviously only recently came to our area. What we found was that even though this role had an enforcement capacity and fines were certainly being issued, we had a greater positive response from the community, and the overall compliance actually increased. Our enforcement capacity did not impact our friendly, approachable face of council on the beach, and actually increased our public profile as a knowledgeable source of information for animal behaviour and training, as well as regulatory compliance.
So there's lots of different theories around psychological literature about how we can successfully change human behaviour or predict behaviour change. So this is just one of the ones that I came across in my PhD, and it was this idea of the theory of planned behaviour, which was first described by Asgen in 1991. And the idea goes that in order to be able to, in order for someone to intend to change their behaviour and therefore actually change their behaviour, they need to have these three different things. So one is that they need to have positive attitudes about the behaviour. The other is that they need to have the people around them to also have positive attitudes about the behaviour. So that's the subjective norms. And then they also need to have perceived behavioural control. And so that means they need to feel as if they have the physical ability or the resources or the emotional capacity to be able to perform that behaviour as well. And so just one of the things that was kind of marinating in the back of my mind and the conversations that Danny and I had as we were kind of, the role was evolving. And we actually realised that we could really implement some of these ideas in our conversations with dog owning community on the foreshore and some of our educational messages as well. So just through the nature of my role, I was able to let people know if their dogs were off lead that other people around them actually preferred to have dogs on lead on the beach, because I'd had conversations with those people. I'd found out that people are recovering from surgery and don't want to be jumped on by a friendly dog, or they're allergic, or they have phobias of dogs, or their kids have been knocked over previously, or their food has been stolen, or their towels have been peed on before by dogs. And so it was this highlighting this idea of actually it's not about your dog at all. It's about the fact that we're a community and this is a community space and everyone else wants your dog on lead. But I could also help change their attitudes about the behaviour too. So for instance, a lot of people in my experience like to let their dogs run free. And so they can't be off lead, even in an off lead time unless they're under effective control. And a lot of people would let their dogs off and then wait for the dog to get tired and then catch the dog and put it back on lead at the end of the walk. And so having conversations with them about actually that's not very good for you and your relationship with your dog, because your dog is just learning to ignore you when there's distractions around, or your dog is just tiring themselves out and you're just creating a fitter dog over time because more and more exercise is going to be needed to tire them out the more they run, which is logical. But a lot of people don't think of that sort of stuff. So helping change their attitudes about, hey, actually, it might be really useful to train a recall behaviour in an off-lead time so that I can change my relationship with my dog, or change this idea of needing my dog to be tired before it's good. And then because I had a background in training and behaviour, we can go through how to teach their dog to come back or to walk nicely on lead. And so we can help them with that perceived behavioural control aspect as well.
What's even more interesting is the unexpected flow-on effect from having a behavioural consult on staff. We didn't realise we were providing outdated barking advice, like ignoring unwanted barking or recommending the use of citronella collars. Where we now know barking cases can be incredibly complex and a one-size-fits-all approach can be very ineffective and result in complaints coming back and again and again. Whereas identifying the right type of information that will address the reason that the dog is barking in the first place can help reduce the amount of time spent on the job. Knowing more about behaviour also helps our officers provide realistic expectations to complaints and assist in understanding more about a particular behaviour observed or more serious dog attack aggression situations. It also provided new insight into our SOPs, like picking up dogs wandering at large or setting realistic barking complaint timelines. But one thing that we hadn't predicted in the slightest was how much a community engages with free information that can directly impact their dogs and their quality of life. In the past 6 years, we've developed a great many new innovative, interactive and engaging educational campaigns with the view of helping our residents learn more about their dog with the undercurrent of what responsible dog ownership looks like. Our animal management kit that we give to all our new dog owning residents improves so much more, provides so much free information on dog training, behaviour, appropriate socialisation, dog park etiquette, body language than it ever used to. Even some cat management and enrichment strategies for indoor cats. We also developed a free barking booklet for our residents detailing how to identify the different types of barking dogs can do and what strategies will be most effective. Having knowledge about animal behaviour and dog training was instrumental to the development of both of these.
So this was another campaign that we ran, and I'm hoping that some of you here may have seen these signs before. So these are our dog park etiquette signs that we developed in an attempt to help people understand in a fun, engaging way a little bit more about what appropriate and safe play looks like. We developed the content for these signs, we created the storyboard, and then we commissioned a really well-known graphic artist, Lily Chin, in the dog training community, at least, to create these signs. And we've just been blown away by the positive feedback that they have received. So these are several years old now. But we are still, even recently, last week, getting requests for interest in how people can use these signs. They've been put up on training blogs and science blogs. They have been people from all around the world and all around Australia, councils, private training facilities alike, are asking for permission to use them in their off-lead spaces. So it's just been absolutely wonderful. And this is just one of the pieces of feedback that we have received. And it just says, I was just watching dogs at the dog park in Silver Lake yesterday, and it was all wrong. I'm just paraphrasing now because the screen has been covered, and so much was wrong. So dogs being bullied, being ganged up on, group chase, over arousal. The parents had no clue. Wish every dog park had been posted. And this was a comment on an Instagram account that came from the US. So it was just really nice to see.
So, the Pets of Charles Sturt Facebook page was created in 2017 to share the latest information regarding pet ownership, helpful hints, upcoming community events, relevant community consultations, and much more. On this site, we have been able to promote and reinforce the importance of responsible pet ownership through fun, engaging, and brief, informative articles about dog health, behaviour, care, and training. Our page currently has over 2,600 followers. However, our reach is anywhere between 20 to 30,000 each month. Yeah.
So one of our highest rating educational campaigns on our Pets of Charles Sturt Facebook page to date has been our free interactive dog behaviour quiz. The quiz was created to further educate our community on responsible dog ownership and with a focus on dog attack prevention as outlined within our strategic plan. So to our knowledge, this is the first free educational and interactive quiz that has been created within Australia. The quiz displays 15 different questions, which will show you an example of that, what that looks like in a second, and displays different types of body language with correct and incorrect responses confirmed in a positive and informative way. And again, the graphics for this quiz were also used in conjunction with permission from Lily Chin, that graphic artist.
So we were blown away with the community response and received over 10,000 people completing the quiz within first 5 days of its launch. To date, the quiz has been completed over 50,000 times and has been shared across Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Canada, and beyond. And people have been sharing it within their own communities, including animal shelters, dog groomers, training, rescue and foster organisations, and even primary schools. So make sure you jump online to our quiz, obviously after the presentation, and see how you go.
So we've also been able to trial different dog park designs and strategies, and not to get on my high horse here, but the thing is, guys, we don't know the impact that that traditional sort of dog park play can have on dog sociability long term. The research just hasn't caught up with us yet. And the other thing that has become really apparent to us over the last year or so is that dog parks, in the way that they're traditionally set up, actually really don't cater to a huge proportion of our dog owning community. So from the dog's perspective, there are loads of dogs out there. It's actually more common for dogs to not enjoy being jumped on by strange dogs. Surprise. But a lot of people, a lot of residents actually might be worried about being jumped on by strange dogs as well, or they are a little bit unsteady on their feet or recovering from surgery, and so a little bit too worried to take their dog into a dog park. We know that dogs in South Australia can only be off lead if they're under effective control, but of course, as dog parks are fully fenced, the practical application of that tends to get a little bit muddy, with people using that as an excuse to let their unmanageable dog off lead as well. So, like, of course, we understand that having a good run and play is really important for dogs, but it's equally important for dog owners to change up the type of exercise and enrichment that dogs are getting every day. So, and to not just rely on 30 minutes of crazy uncontrolled play. And just like with kids who I'm sure would love, you know, hours at the Royal Adelaide show every single day that it's on, it's probably not in their best interest to allow their brains to just go nuts for that period of time. So it's just something to bear in mind as we move forward, and it's something that we've been discussing as we look at creating different types of safe, dog-friendly, but enriching and educational spaces for our dogs too. So one of the other things that we did this year was trial some dog park etiquette training. And that was where I was just able to rock up with another officer, so there's always two of us, and we had some free giveaways, and we would just have a chat with the people that were in the dog park at the time and discuss what appropriate play looked like in real time. So I would be able to match dogs together, or it was actually quite a difficult thing. So it's not something for everyone, even with the level of experience that I had and the confidence that I have public speaking. It was quite difficult for me to manage this sort of ever evolving landscape of dogs interacting, answering questions from the people, watching the dogs closely, making decisions about whether I intervene, and then having to explain why I intervened. And because obviously dog body language and play can change so rapidly. But it was really, really beneficial. For one, people could see in real time intervening at certain situations and aspects of dog play actually did change play. So they could see the way that their dog's play was changing because they were active and stepping in. But it was also really wonderful to be able to answer questions from the community about why that behaviour is unacceptable, or actually how often do you come here? How is this part of your everyday routine, or is there a way that we can change this up so your dog isn't practicing high levels of hyperarousal? But the other thing I really liked about these dog park etiquette sessions that we ran was that it provided another really friendly face of community from the council perspective that wasn't an authoritarian sort of official patrol. And so it let us see the sorts of play that was happening in the dog park in a really friendly, non-confrontational way, but still gave us a lot of information about, you know, what's actually happening, because there's not much that we know about what happens in dog parks. So it was really useful. And the feedback we got from the community was absolutely brilliant. So,
absolutely. So having a PhD candidate who is a qualified behavioural consultant on staff to help create this content has given us confidence in what we're sharing and insight into what behaviour and training information our pet parents might find useful. This has also led to the creation of our very own dog blog, which is on the council's main website, to allow us to further explore detailed articles on all things dog, and hence allow the Pets of Charles Sturt page to have a main point of reference to refer people to for further information. Most of our dog blogs have an underlying educational message surrounding responsible dog ownership. We run a really fine line balance between getting people engaged with the content they want to see, such as free advice, cute pictures, or the opportunity to share a picture of their own dog. We all love that. And ensuring our responsible dog ownership messages still reach them. I think we're actually treading that fine line very nicely, if I do say so myself.
So when I started, Doggy Day at the Beach was our sole dog-based community education event. And last year, if we'd been able to run it, would have been our 10th year. And so when Danny first started it, it was literally just a trestle table and a marquee on Henley Square. The last time we ran it in 2019, we had nearly 2,000 people come through with their dogs. It was an incredible day. And Doggy Day on the Beach was an educational event that is designed to just highlight that daylight savings is coming up. So don't forget that the leash laws on the foreshore are going to change. And when they change, these are what they are, which is 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. dogs have to be on leave on the beach. Just a fun way to get that message across and invite the community to us and to promote Friendly Faces Council. But in 2016, we also started our very first Doggy Day on the Green event. And so that was run earlier in the year with a really heavy focus on force retraining and behaviour, with this idea of let's use this platform with free advice and fun things that people can do with their dogs to just with this underlining message of these are what the regulatory requirements are. So in 2018 and 2019, for Doggy Day on the Green, we partnered up with the local neighbouring council, the City of Adelaide Enfield, and we ran that together so that we could create a bigger and better event. And for both of those community events, we had dog-related stallholder businesses that people could go through with their dogs that sold a range of stuff. We ran workshops on loose leash walking and recall and polite greetings. We had free information sessions on body language and kids and dogs and building better relationships with dogs. So just a whole range of different stuff that would meet pet owning sort of interest, but also things that were good for kids and things that were fun for dogs to do too.
So last year, we couldn't run our events due to COVID, and we were determined to go ahead this year, even if it had to look a little bit different. So this year, we actually teamed up with City of Port Adelaide Enfield again to run our Doggy Day on the Green alternative. So Doggy Festival was hence born as a mostly online event with a series of educational videos from our beach education officer, Petra, and also some small scheduled loose lead walking, recall and dog park etiquette workshops that were advertised and people could book into and attend. As a result, both councils received some excellent feedback about the content of the videos and the practical application of training, boosting residents' confidence in navigating walks and training effectively. So we also moved away from signs that state regulatory requirements and moved towards signage that acknowledges that most of the people are actually doing the right thing and highlighting what that thing is. These new signs we can put up and take down easily. They are mainly printed on core float, and we can move them around the foreshore and different locations to keep them new in the environment and also engaging. Most recently, we also took pictures of neighbouring dogs and worked with a local artist and to create a paste up of these personable and really cute pictures around the reserves on all the walls and some bins and really any area we could find and really help promote the leash laws in a way that would really catch people's attention. Obviously, everyone likes seeing a photo of their own dog, especially if it's at a local dog park. Our dog on lead stencils are also made in-house and placed around popular walking trails along the foreshore and also some reserves, and have been incredibly popular by our community and get a lot of praise on our social media as well. So our officers are here to enforce the Dog and Cat Management Act in South Australia anyway. Their roles are really quite reactive in the role's nature, responding to requests and complaints, barking, dog attacks, dogs wandering at large. It's relentless and exhausting, but it can also be very much rewarding. We've been focusing on education around regulation and legal requirements for years. We can continue to educate that way until we're blue in the face. And yet, still only capture a certain aspect of the dog owning population. So let's face it, they're probably the responsible dog owners anyway. If we can change the way we engage with our community, we can reach a lot more people.
So here's the thing, and I'm probably quite biased because of my background, but behaviour is at the core of what animal management officers do. Whether you want to or not, as an AMO, you're dealing with behaviour. And so the role requires this really unique set of skills that combine and integrate an understanding and experience with regulation and compliance with these principles of animal behaviour as well. And so working in this role has really allowed me to view that sort of regulatory skill set through an animal behaviour lens. And I do truly believe that integrating the knowledge between the two can only help officers complete their roles more successfully and effectively. And on that note, I just wanted to touch base with this bit of information that you might find interesting as well. So the University of Adelaide has a new degree, which is a Bachelor of Science in Animal Behaviour. The first cohort of students have just graduating now, and they learn a whole bunch of really cool animal behaviour stuff. But one of the courses that animal behaviour students have to do is a course on animal management. And we ran our first course at the beginning of this year, and one of the students actually said that they weren't even aware that this was a job, this animal management officer role wasn't a job that they could do as part of graduating from this degree. So I thought that was really interesting, and certainly Dr. Susan Hazel, who's the course coordinator, has just been instrumental in helping encourage and promote animal regulation and animal management within a whole different range of degrees and with students. So the animal management course is an intensive course that's run over 2 weeks. So the first week is online lectures. The second week is a face-to-face that's full of workshops on dog attacks and barking, communication skills, animal handling, that sort of stuff. The reason I mention it is because it's a 2-week intensive, it's actually open to people not doing the degree. So if you are an AMO and you're interested in upskilling a little bit more about behaviour, then contact Dr. Susan Hazel, and I've got her details there on the slide, and it's something that might be of interest to you if you want. And so we just wanted to take this moment to summarise kind of what we've thought. So hopefully we've convinced you that animal behaviour is important. One of the things that you might be interested in doing is finding a qualified force-free trainer as part of your officer team. So what I mean by that is there's lots of really brilliant force-free trainers out there that would jump at the chance of some part-time work. But also, if that's not an option for you and your team, then find some force-free trainers and reach out and see if it's something that they'd be able to do in partnering up with you in some way as well. But do be sure that they're comfortable public speaking, because it's quite an important aspect of the role. Don't be afraid to start small. So just a social media post, a flyer, a pop-up info session. You can reuse stuff that's already out there. So or you could do your own stuff depending on what is going to be of best effect and most importance to you and the issues that you're facing in your community as well. Be really strategic about the educational messages that you're sending. So remember the theory of planned behaviour, or have a look at some of those other theories and make sure that you're meeting them where they need to be met, and then you can provide your messages once you've got that engagement. Don't be afraid to be creative, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions and brainstorm with us or with other professionals and colleagues as well, because we're all in this together, and really collaborating can only benefit us and the work that we do, and make us more effective and efficient. But more importantly, I think it can only benefit the animals that are in our care too.
So I hope that we'll start to see the dividends of our new educational messages in the near future, as more and more people learn what responsible dog ownership requires and looks like. Of course, it's not that simple, and we know dog ownership is on the rise. More people are working from home than ever before, and our public spaces are getting busier. We recognise that there may be a range of solutions for increasing community engagement in a regulatory context. However, this one seems to be working for us. So thank you all so much for your time. Here is my contact details, my emails there. So please, any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. And I do have to do a plug about the Pets of Charles Sturt Facebook page. So make sure you follow us or jump on and have a look at some of the things that we're currently doing. So I think we might have some questions now.
Yes, absolutely. Well done, guys. That was a beautiful presentation. And I do love, Petra, the fact that there's lots of rotties appearing, or one rotty probably appearing. Always makes me happy.
Also biased.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. We're allowed to be biased. We have a question from Virginia. Do you have any evidence about there being a decline in owners keeping their dog under effective control when the space is fully fenced? We're constantly asked for off-leash areas, not dog parks, to be fenced. It's our perception that effective control does decline when spaces are fully fenced, but we have no evidence of this. This is a question that comes up all the time. You guys got any data for that?
Okay, I can jump in and then you can jump in. So we don't have any concrete data. We obviously, it is one of those things as well that we think if we do put up a fence, that people are going to be a little bit more relaxed in not keeping their dogs under effective control. So hence why we really do push the subject about effective control. We do a lot of recall workshops. We've got a lot of training videos as well. So no evidence specifically. It would be really interesting to do that. But yeah, not unfortunately at this time. Anything you want to jump in?
From the research field, I'm not aware of anything either. I'm sorry. So dog parks and that sort of social interaction with dogs in dog parks is just at the moment completely under researched. There's not, especially in Australia, with our demographics. So I wish I could give you more concrete evidence in that regard. I'm only speaking from what I see myself, but also through sort of discussions and what I do in basic manners training classes and things like that. It's often a thing that crops up. It's like, oh, dogs have to be under effective control in there. I thought because it's fenced, it doesn't matter. And so it's just based on anecdotal evidence at this stage. I'm not aware of any research, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things we need more evidence, more data collected across this whole sector, really, don't we? So something for us all to work on. We've got a question here about your budget for the community events. Any figures around that?
Yes. So the budgets are run for about 10,000. But having said that, obviously it includes staff time and all of that. And when we do it in partnering, that's obviously for both events. And when we do it in partnering with other councils, obviously they chip in and we work out the budget in there.
And you didn't start with that budget.
Oh, gosh, no. So initially, when we started, there was no budget. It was done within allocated resourcing. And honestly, the first Doggy Day at the Beach is exactly what Petra described. We lugged the trestle table from here, and we didn't even have a marquee. We just did a trestle table and some printouts, and it's grown from there. And we're really, really lucky in Charles Sturt that we do brainstorm a lot. We sit around the table with our officers. You know, they're the eyes and ears down on the road. So we'll say to them what works, and these events have grown as a result. So we've engaged a lot of experts within Charles Sturt as well. The marketing crew too have been incredible, so that we can keep the budgets. We can deliver a lot for the money that we do have. So yeah, we've been quite creative in coming up with solutions for that. But yeah, in the last 10 years, it has grown quite a lot. And we are actually planning our new Doggy Day at the Beach, which is going to look a little bit different on the 2nd of October. Fingers crossed that it all goes through. So
looking forward to seeing what that looks like. That'll be fantastic. All right, another question about data. Is there anything on increase in compliance from these activities and new initiatives?
Yeah, so we collect data as beach education officers on the foreshore. So we count the number of times we see dogs off lead. We count the number of times expiations are issued, of course. We count the number of times we are reinforcing people for doing the right thing with a little giveaway like some food bags or a water bowl. So we do have data that's been tracked over the years. It doesn't form a beautifully cohesive picture as a researcher I would like to see, because we have different people collecting the data at different times, and it gets a bit messy. But there is a drop in the numbers of dogs that we're seeing off lead, just based on the data. It's a trend at the moment, so I wouldn't say that it's a significant data set yet. But there's lots of other confounding factors too, of course. So the types of non-compliance we see is different if we're walking versus if we're driving, because the car is a bit more obvious on the beach, and so people can tend to run away before we can get to them, potentially in some cases. In other cases, I've had people run away down the beach while I'm driving, and it's just like you catch up with them inevitably because you're in a car. So you know, that's quite fun. But the other thing is that we've had a really big difference in the types of complaints we're seeing, aren't we? So, so that has been a bit of an eye-opener, and I'll let you talk about that because you're the one that deals with them.
Yeah. So really, specifically on the foreshore, since we've increased our patrols, it's interesting that I guess having a greater presence there, people are almost looking for, I guess, reasons and looking for excuses for their behaviour and non-compliance. So, and our complaints are becoming very, I guess, specific in relation to the laws themselves. So really challenging what the bylaws are and what the requirements are. So, for example, if your dog is in water, in the water at the beach, obviously, then our bylaw doesn't apply because it's not on sand. So people have sort of been trying to come up with a loophole. Well, what if it's in a corridor? You know, what if it's in a little puddle that's being formed as a result of, you know, the tides going backwards and forwards. So there has been some really interesting complaints come through that we haven't had in the past, just due to the fact that we've had an increase of patrol and an increased presence. And it's funny that people actually say, well, I've been doing this for years. So now that we have increased the patrols, I think the community is being a lot more aware of what the requirements are. And there's some of that self-governing happening as well. So yeah, that's where a lot of these complaints, I believe, are coming from. And I know data to back this up, but I do think as well that a lot more people have gone and gotten out of dogs since the whole COVID situation. So I think there's a lot more people using these spaces with their dogs at the moment.
And I would add to that actually that I think the community awareness, so we've got the two questions in terms of data, I guess, for this. One is, are we actually seeing compliance increase? And we just don't have enough consistent data to say for sure at this stage, especially because we're also increasing hours and there's other confounding factors relating to that. But community awareness, I would agree, has increased dramatically. So where, you know, when I first started, we'd get things like, well, where are the signs? I can't see any signs. And now it's like, oh yes, no, I heard that. Oh yes, no, I read that. Oh yes, I saw that sign. You know, oh, I heard that from my friend or something like that. So just again, anecdotally, it seems to be much more effective in, yes, people at least understand there's a leash law. And now we're getting this next progression of specificity.
And it's interesting that, you know, people are asking us questions about dog body language. You know, 10 years ago that it wasn't a thing. You know, it was just put a lead on it and go. Whereas now, you know, they're talking about, is my dog comfortable in this space? Talking about the body language, you know, talking about just real things that we've been harping on about and thinking, is it reaching our community? So hearing it come back has been really nice. So yeah, does that answer the question?
Definitely appears to be a big increase in awareness, and I guess it's the first step with all of these things, isn't it? Anne asks, and I love this question, I've actually seen it in the States, but has anyone ever thought of a fenced dog park with swipe cards where if you want to have access to the park and you're allowed in with your dog, you have to have done a certain level of training, whether it be obedience training or puppy school or anything like that. So yeah, I've seen something like that in the States. People actually pay to be a member. I don't know if anyone knows of anything like that here in Australia.
There is in South Australia a privately owned dog park, which is on someone's farm down south, where you pay a nominal fee and you have a booking, and that space is yours for an hour. I think there are more sorts of things like that that are privately owned that are popping up, which I think is absolutely brilliant, because again, we have them dogs that, you know, perhaps don't want to be interacting with other dogs, that can enjoy that space and that freedom and that off-lead run safely and
absolutely
relax. So I really love that idea. We've spoken about it, here. And so I'm just trying to, Danny and I are just trying to brainstorm a way that we as a council could look at that effectively
from a practicality perspective,
with the resources that we have.
yes, resource
A little bit
dependent.
difficult from a council perspective, but
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
definitely a service. If someone could do it, I think it's a service that would just go nuts.
Yeah,
From a dog owner perspective.
agreed. Lisa asks, what would Charles Sturt like to do next in the space?
Great question. I'm like,
Where's the list?
Give away our ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're the office lady.
Oh, well, look, there's a range of things that, you know, we've sort of been talking about and doing and discussing, you know, from looking at a specific website that deals with all of our dog spaces and what's suitable for which dog temperament, you know, to doing school holiday programs with kids and really highlighting some spaces. We really love the idea of safaris and really promoting spaces in Charles Sturt that are dog friendly, you know, spaces that are not necessarily on lead, but, you know, you can take your dog for a good sniff, and why that's really important. So there is a range of ideas that we've got that we're looking at sort of implementing. Basically, all of the ideas that we have in our 5-year animal management plan, they all feed into one another. So our plan is a public document. It is available on our website. And
maybe we could link that with the recording, Danny. If you want to flick me through a copy, I'll put it up with the recording, and then that will be great for everyone to see, actually. So
absolutely.
okay,
Because you can actually see the plans that we've got over the next 5 years.
great, perfect. Okay, lovely. Monica asks, we're running out of time, so we're going to whiz through the next few questions. Monica asks, from a council point of view, them that may not have a budget for animal behaviour or education, what's the biggest bang for your buck, do you think?
I'm going to jump in here and say social media.
Yeah.
So
in what way?
So if you can get an engaged community really quickly, you can have a tailored audience if you do it well. I think we started off really small, and really when you are talking about people following local government, specifically when it's about dogs and cats and pets, it's almost like people are saying, well, what do we get for this? Every time we posted up a photo or said, show us your pets, it goes crazy. People love a platform where they can share these types of, I guess, ideas and pictures, and you then have a captive audience that you can really push educational messages to.
And I would just quickly add to that as well. One of the cool things about what City of Charles Sturt does is, because it's separate to the corporate social media, we can be a bit more fun and a bit more cheeky and have a bit more fun about those messages that we send out. So one of the things that we would do on a beach patrol is kind of take this, you know, selfie video of myself and just, you know, I just swallowed a fly while I was trying to talk to someone that was, you know, having their dog off lead, or and just kind of present us as more people as well. So we're like people that can be relatable and are very approachable, or, you know, one top tip or two top tips about training a certain thing, or I just tried this, I've tried this on my dog. Type of enrichment. So those really short video grabs that can be shared on social media, I think, are really done.
Absolutely. No, the video of Petra swallowing a fly was just priceless.
More swallowing flies. All right, so 2 last questions. One, I'm going to combine a few questions, but just very quickly, preferences for fenced versus unfenced off-leash areas, and what kind of infrastructure do you like to see within that?
Oh, I don't know.
Caroline, so Caroline asked this question, and you might also want to refer back. We did do a dog park webinar, Caroline. I'm not sure if you saw that, but yeah, you can jump back to that and have a look. But we'll see what Petra and Danny have got to say in a minute or less.
I like off-lead unfenced spaces because more space means less risk of altercation and more, I think, owner worry about what their dogs are doing and more consistent, well-behaved dogs. And then there was, and I like spaces that have lots of different types of substrate because grass and bark chips and cement and pavers and sand all hold scent differently for a dog, and sniffing is really important for their mental enrichment. So having a transition of spaces and substrates, I think, is important. Realistically, I think fence spaces aren't necessary, but
yeah. I love the idea of unfenced. I don't know from a practicality perspective with roads, with cars, with a lot of other things in our setting, how that may work and look, but I love the idea of it, and it would personally probably be my preference also. Exactly what Petra's outlined in relation to, what to go in a dog park. I think scent, things that dogs can actually stop and sniff. It's incredible. When we did our safari garden, sensory garden, it was incredible when we did the filming to promote it. And Petra's Roddy came in there and sniffed for about 10 minutes and then just laid down and was done. And she was exhausted, and it was just evidence right there. It was beautiful.
Fantastic. All right. And the very last question is, what does Charles Sturt have up its sleeve for cats?
That's a really big question.
It is.
Give me a few seconds. Well, look, we have incorporated a lot of our educational material about cats on City of Charles Sturt as well. We are currently exploring some subsidised desexing for cats as well. Ultimately, it is a space that we're still looking into a lot more, and are hoping for a statewide direction when it comes to cat management. So ultimately, that Charles Sturt is keen to work with a uniform statewide approach when it comes to overall cat management.
Great. And I guess there might be some stuff in your domestic animal management plan about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Danny and Petra. That was just a wonderful presentation, and clearly everyone has enjoyed it. We've had lots of great feedback in the chat. So thank you so much. Your work is appreciated. Thanks, everybody, for attending. Keep an eye out on our social media and our e-news for up and coming webinars, and if you'd like to see a particular topic covered or a particular speaker present, please let us know. We love to get some feedback from you guys on what you want to see. So take care, and we shall see you next time. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.